The first time Lena saw Caleb, he was sitting alone at the edge of the old marina in Miro Bay, scribbling something into a weathered leather notebook. The sun was just beginning to dip below the horizon, casting long golden reflections across the water. Lena, a traveling photographer from Montreal, had only planned to stay in the sleepy coastal town for 3 days. She hadn't expected to be drawn in by anything more than the scenery, but there was something about him, about the way he stared out at the ocean, like he was waiting for it to give something back. She snapped a photo, click. It wasn't her usual style to capture strangers, but this moment felt cinematic, honest. He didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't care. The next day, Lena returned to the same marina, hoping for better light, but secretly hoping he'd be there. He was. This time, when she raised her camera, he looked up. "You know, most people ask before taking someone's photo," he said, half smiling. "I usually don't photograph people at all," she replied, a bit embarrassed. "You just looked like you were somewhere else." "I usually am," he said, closing his notebook. She didn't expect him to invite her to sit down beside him, but he did. And she went. They talked about nothing. Weather, the sea, the quietness of the town. But there was something about the way they spoke, a rhythm forming between their sentences, a soft undercurrent pulling them in. When she asked what he was writing, he hesitated, then answered, "Stories I'll probably never finish." "Why not?" "Because I never stay anywhere long enough to finish them." Lena looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in a long while, something inside her stirred. That night, they parted with no promises, no numbers exchanged. Just a glance, one that lingered a bit too long to mean nothing. The wind picked up the next morning, rustling the curtains of Lena's small room. The sea called to her again, and she followed it, camera in hand, but mind elsewhere. She kept thinking of Caleb, the stranger with words in his notebook and storms in his eyes. When she reached the marina, he wasn't there, disappointed but unsurprised. She wandered the shoreline, taking pictures of broken boats, seagulls mid-flight, the abandoned lighthouse at the edge of the cove. She almost missed the soft voice calling her name. "Lena?" She turned. Caleb stood beneath the arch of an old pier, holding 2 coffees and wearing the same gray sweater from the day before. His hair was messier now, windswept, his smile softer. "I figured you might come back." She blinked, surprised. "You remembered my name." "I couldn't forget it." He handed her a coffee and nodded toward a quiet path beyond the pier. They walked together, silence trailing comfortably between them. As they wandered through wildflower fields and along cliffs that met the restless ocean, their conversations grew bolder. Lena spoke about her travels, the loneliness between flights, the joy of seeing the world through her lens. Caleb admitted he once had a book deal he walked away from, overwhelmed by the pressure to create something perfect. They paused at a cliff's edge, watching waves smash against rocks below. "You know what I like about you?" Caleb asked quietly. Lena glanced sideways. "Tell me." "You see things no one else does. You wait for the moment that matters." She didn't know how to respond. Her chest ached in a way she hadn't felt in years, tender and terrifying. That evening, they ended up back at the marina, sitting on the dock as the town's lights shimmered on the water. Lena's head rested on Caleb's shoulder, and he didn't move, didn't flinch, just let her stay there as if she belonged. "You said you never stay anywhere long enough to finish a story," she whispered. Caleb turned his head slightly. "Maybe that's starting to change." They didn't kiss that night, but when their hands found each other beneath the soft moonlight, fingers interlacing with the ease of memory, it felt like the beginning of something they didn't yet understand, but neither of them wanted to let go. The rain arrived without warning. Heavy droplets pounded the windows of the small inn where Lena had decided to extend her stay. Just one more night, she told herself. But one became 2, then 4. And each day, Caleb was there. They met at the marina, the cliffs, sometimes without words, sometimes with conversations that lasted until the moon was high. He took her to an old bookstore he loved, hidden behind ivy and salt-stained bricks. She showed him her photo series, quiet portraits of broken docks and sea-tossed boats, and to her surprise, he was moved. "You make loneliness look beautiful," he said softly. "No," she whispered. I make it look honest. That night, as thunder cracked in the distance and waves crashed against the shore, Caleb showed up at her door. He was soaked, his notebook pressed under his coat, his eyes wild with something between fear and certainty. "I wrote something," he said, "and I think it ends with you." Lena let him in without a word. Her room smelled of sea and coffee. He dropped the notebook on the table untouched. His eyes were only on her. "I don't know what this is," he began, his voice rough, "but it's been years since I've felt anything. You came here and suddenly, it's like I've been holding my breath for too long. And now I don't know how to stop wanting to be near you." Lena didn't answer with words. She stepped forward and kissed him. It wasn't a soft kiss. It was storm and surrender, need and relief. It was a kiss that collapsed everything between them. He kissed her back like a man trying to remember how to feel. And she held him like someone who had always understood silence more than sound. Their clothes fell away like old identities, forgotten and irrelevant. They made love slowly, with quiet gasps and open eyes. There was nothing rushed or careless. Every movement asked a question. Every breath was an answer. Later, as rain danced against the roof, they lay tangled in sheets and quiet laughter. Lena's head on Caleb's chest, his hand tracing circles along her back. "Do you still believe you never stay anywhere long enough to finish a story?" she asked. He paused, then kissed her temple. "Not anymore." Days turned into a week into a plan. Lena delayed her flight. Caleb sent pages of his manuscript to an old editor. They didn't speak of forever, but they didn't need to, because in that small town, beneath the restless ocean and the scent of salt and memory, two people who had drifted too long had finally stopped moving, and for once, the tide didn't take them away from each other.